Very bored actually. So bored that I could probably get up, do a backflip, and break my neck before I sit down and do this homework. Where's my? I found the thing. Yes, my very thing looking thing. I found my thing. Yes. Oh yes, my thing. That is actually kind of crazy. Actually, a little bit more than crazy, but hey, I'm not the guy. I'm just a guy. Um. Uh. um, um, um. They rejected my appeal. I love YouTube. As we determined, your video actually does violate content guidelines, and you have to listen to us or you're gonna get banned, buddy. Ah, ah, ah. There we go. Uh, yes, it's no, it's not made for kids. It will never be made for kids. I will never make anything for kids. I do not like kids. What's going on? Da 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 da. I don't know why they want me to like do all of this. There's really no graph to go with any of this homework. Why would you want me to? Anyways, question two. All right, if it goes from 8 to 10, that means it's 2 out of 8. And 2 out of 8. So I gotta get 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, 2 out of 8. So up plus 0.25%. And then we're gonna divide. 3, 1, 2. What are you doing? Curious. Yeah, you. Why do you not have just two parent horses and the maximized amount of trace on two parent horses? Mm. The strategy to getting good eye colors on horses like that is gonna like I think take four breeds or more, maybe five breeds. But what you would have to do is keep progressively breeding with. So brown eyes, they are 75%. Then go to something like gold because that's 50%. Then light gray, then blue, and then you can do blue with your rare colors because it's a 10%. And so the 10% with the 1% will make yes the blue come out more, but you'll have a higher chance of getting that 1%. And it is the last tier before 1%, 0.1%, which is pure black. And the best strategy for that, I think, is trait boost plus one bond on the horse that has the unique eye color, and then no trait boost on the other one, so that the 10% is a lesser chance of getting the other one, so that you actually roll the other color for the eye instead. Because eyes are in fact a trait, so yeah, you can just abuse that a little bit, or not abuse, but use that. It's not necessarily abuse because that's kind of the way you're supposed to do it. Other than getting just extremely lucky, which I am not good at. Okay, 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 okay.
is negative 15%. The negative. Your teacher, professors be really strict about that.
I guess.
Elasticity demand coefficient, calculate the percent change, increase. And percent decrease from 10 to 8. Make sure you said it was a negative.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa! Ah! Hey, hey! What are you talking about? Oh, it's 2 out of 10. Point two bad point five. Point two bad point five. Point bad point two. 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 Negative 2.5. Negative 2.5. Negative 2.5. Okay, okay, okay. What's up, YouTube? YouTube. YouTube. All right, so the first one is going to be 1.5. So it's going to be a little elastic. A little elastic. Not too elastic though, because we're gonna get something more elastic than that. We're gonna get something a little bit more elastic than that as well. We're going to get a very close to this. You're gonna get a very close to this. This is very close. Damn. Wait, is that true? No, that can't be true, bro.
Plug in the equation, the percent change in quantity was 20% positive.
Oh, that is 0.8. That is 0.8. That is 0.8. 0.8. Okay, 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 okay. So we're gonna put that there. Nay, tis fat. It's not too inelastic, but I am genuinely like not in the mood to be this. E Q Q P P. Oh, that's not fucking it, bro. Oh shit, bro. Why? Genuinely, why? Oh my god. Oh my fucking good. No. Dude, my stylus was doing so fucking well, and now it's not. Now it's being stupid and drag and being dumb. You know, I don't like being in the front. I don't like being in the front. Because I don't like being in the front. Not when people's horses are right on my stall. No, 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 I don't. One, two, three, four. I'm such a waste of space, but sure, who cares? How many videos do I have less? I have 5 videos. That's a 5. Yo, my nigga, can we be honest with each other? The procrastinating story.
Oh. Oh, he decides to draw today. I said he decides to draw. Oh no, he's doing an assignment with it. Okay. Never mind. That's why I said never mind. Oh really? Oh yeah, I'm not taking no type of English class. You got me completely fucked up.
Smoking on Dingleberg. Dingleberg. Smoking on Dingleberg. Boom. I have a problem. I'm thinking about that. Oh, give me gas. About that, boy. All right, Chad. I gotta make the moves. The moves. The moves. The maze.
Today we begin to discuss
The moves. The moves. The maze.
applications. This is going to take us a few lectures because the materials are a little bit, and also, I'm going to be honest, the material can be a little bit tedious. There's some formulas that we're going to have to learn how to use and memorize and so forth. However, the applications are really fascinating.
I don't
Moreover,
care.
elasticity is going to come back again and again. We're going to use it when we do taxes and subsidies. We're going
What?
to use it again when we do monopoly.
What?
This is just another one of those foundational
What?
concepts that it's going to pay to learn well the first time we do it. Let's get started.
What? What?
Demand curves slope down. In other words, when the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. When the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. Pretty simple. But how much does quantity demanded change when the price changes? When the price goes down, does the quantity demanded increase by a lot or by a little? That's the concept that elasticity is going to help us to understand. Here's the basic terminology. A demand curve is said to be elastic when an increase in price reduces the quantity demanded by a lot. And similarly, when a decrease in price increases the quantity demanded by a lot. That's an elastic curve. The quantity is changing a lot in response to the price. When the same increase in price reduces the quantity demanded just a little, or when the same decrease in price increases the quantity demanded just a little, then the demand curve is said to be inelastic, or less elastic, or not elastic. The elasticity of demand is going to be a measure of how responsive the quantity demanded is to a change in the price. Here's an example. Let's start with this demand curve.
Oh my gosh, they gave me an example. I feel liberated. I feel free. They gave me a demand curve. Oh my gosh, hi, Bug. Hi. Hi, Bug. I love Bug so much. She's so cute. All right, fantastic. We just need to not accidentally trigger the pain that is. Can we get a long line, please? Doodle-dee. Doodle-dee and Toodle Dumb. All right. We're gonna go ahead and go 80. Oh, gosh. I was AFK in the time that a YouTube viewer came, and now like I have no views because I did that. I did that thing. The thing I did. That was me. I regret it a lot. I'm being honest. I really do regret it, man. Ah, dude. Man. Man. Man, dude. Oh, man. That was not my best moment. That was not my best moment. The moment my best, it was not. I'm just stimming, bro. It's so bad. All right. P, Q. This is not very steep. It's steep. Aha. I'm not to get. Oh, gosh. Okay. It really does have something to do with that. Uh huh. In elastic. Why do you hate me? Oh my gosh. Steve.
Which we're going to see is an inelastic demand curve. Notice that when the price increases from $40 to $50, that the quantity demanded goes down by just a little, by 5 units, from 80 units to 75 units. Now consider the following. Suppose we had a demand curve like this. This turns out to
75,
be an elastic
50.
demand curve. Notice that the same $10 increase in price now reduces the quantity demanded from 80 units to 20 units. On the elastic demand curve, the quantity demanded is much more responsive to the price than it is on the inelastic demand curve. On a demand curve where the quantity demanded is responsive to the price, that's called an elastic demand.
Let's go ahead and try that
The
again.
quantity demanded isn't responsive or is less responsive to the price, that's an inelastic demand.
For
or a
sure. We got
more
the 80 here.
elastic demand,
There we
a
go.
less
20
elastic demand.
here. 20 here.
Now you may have noticed on the previous diagrams, the inelastic curve had the higher slope. That is, it was more vertical, while the elastic curve was the more horizontal curve. We haven't defined elasticity technically yet. When we do so, you'll be able to see that elasticity is not the same as slope. However, they are related. For the purposes of this class, if you follow a simple rule, you're going to be fine. The rule is this. If two linear demand or supply curves run through a common point, then at any given quantity, the curve that is flatter, more horizontal, that's the more elastic.
Welcome back,
So
my
if you're going to draw two demand
sweet.
curves, which we're going to have to do many times in this class, let's say they run through a common point, the flatter one, then at any given quantity, the curve that is flatter, more horizontal, that's the more elastic curve. So if you're going to draw two demand curves, which we're going to have to do many times in this class, let's say they run through a common point, the flatter one is the more elastic curve. That'll work fine for you. What determines whether a demand curve is more or less elastic? The key determinant is the availability of substitutes. As we'll see in a minute, the more substitutes, the more elastic the curve. We can also give some more specific examples that are closely related to the number of substitutes. The time horizon. A longer time horizon is going to make the curve more elastic. The category of product. A broad category is going to be less elastic. A specific category, more elastic. Necessities versus luxuries. Luxuries are going to be more elastic. The purchase size. Bigger purchase sizes are going to be more elastic. Now I've gone through those quickly, so don't worry if you haven't followed them all right away. I'm going to go through them now, each in turn, and explain the details. The availability of substitutes is really the key determinant of how elastic a demand curve is. The idea is pretty intuitive. If there's lots of substitutes for a good, then when the price of that good goes up, people are going to switch from it, the good whose price is increased, towards the substitutes. They're going to buy the substitutes instead. That means that when a good with lots of substitutes will be more elastic. The purchase size. Bigger purchase sizes are going to be more elastic. Now I've gone through those quickly, so don't worry if you haven't followed them all right away. I'm going to go through them now, each in turn, and explain the details. The availability of substitutes is really the key determinant of how elastic a demand curve is. The idea is pretty intuitive. If there's lots of substitutes for a good, then when the price of that good goes up, people are going to switch from it, the good whose price is increased, towards the substitutes. They're going to buy the substitutes instead. That means that when a good with lots of substitutes, when the price of that good goes up, the quantity demanded is going to go down a lot as people switch to the substitutes. On the other hand, if we have a good which has very few substitutes, then consumers are going to find it harder to adjust when the prices change. In particular, if the
Bing, bam.
The price goes up and there are very few substitutes, consumers aren't going to be able to switch out of that good into another good. So the quantity demanded is going to remain fairly constant. It's not going to fall a lot when the good has few substitutes. Let's test your understanding with some quick examples. Oil, Brazilian coffee, insulin, Bayer aspirin. Which of these goods have an elastic demand? Which of them have an inelastic demand? Let's start with oil. Are there lots of substitutes for oil or just a few substitutes? Just a few substitutes, right? So if the price of oil goes up tomorrow, at that point, do we all stop driving our cars? Some people love Brazilian coffee, but there's also Ethiopian coffee, there's Mexican coffee, there's Guatemalan coffee, therefore lots of substitutes, therefore elastic demand. Insulin. If you don't get it, you're going to die. Not many substitutes. Therefore, inelastic demand. What about Bayer aspirin? If you go to Walmart, you'll find Walmart aspirin. If you go to Target, there's Target aspirin. All kinds of generic aspirins. If you understand that aspirin is aspirin, you'll understand that there are lots of substitutes. If Bayer tries to raise the price of its aspirin too much, you'll say, forget it. I'm going to go buy the substitutes. Therefore, elastic demand. The time horizon influences the elasticity of demand for a good. And really, this is just an application of the fact that the fundamental determinant is substitutes. Immediately following a price increase, it's going to be difficult to find substitutes. Therefore, immediately following a price increase, demand is likely to be fairly inelastic. But over time, consumers can adjust their behavior, and they can find more substitutes. For example, if the price of oil goes up, then we know that there are very few substitutes in the short run. But in the long run, what are some of the things that people will do if the price of oil is permanently higher? We'll drive smaller cars.
Hold on, now I have to see.
There's a lot more mopeds driven in Europe, for example.
Oh, Day 2 is a themed horse for me now.
Has been higher in Europe due to
oh,
prices.
That sucks.
People have adjusted. In the long run,
that's
people
okay.
will even adjust how cities are designed.
I do the taming contest to get my mutations anyway.
Closer to where they work if the price of oil stays high. If the price of oil is really low, there'll be more sprawl. People will be more willing to live far away and have a big lawn if the price of oil isn't so high. The longer the time horizon, the more the ability to adjust, the more substitutes, and thus the more elastic the demand. Another factor determining the elasticity of demand, again, based upon the fundamental question, are there lots of substitutes or just where they work if the price of oil stays high? If the price of oil is really low, there'll be more sprawl. People will be more willing to live far away and have a big lawn if the price of oil isn't so high. The longer the time horizon, the more the ability to adjust, the more substitutes, and thus the more elastic the demand. Another factor determining the elasticity of demand, again, based upon the fundamental question, are there lots of substitutes or just a few, is what we might call the classification of the good. The broader the classification,
thought of that guy. Um. So for further. It's like my spidey senses were tingling, bro. That although I'm not Spider Man, I wouldn't want to be.
Likely consumers will be able to find a substitute. The narrower the classification, the more likely consumers will be able to find a substitute. We've already seen an example of this. There are more substitutes for Bayer aspirin, a narrow classification, than there are for aspirin, a wider classification. If the price of Bayer aspirin goes up, there are more substitutes, the generics. If the price of all aspirin goes up, there are fewer substitutes. Of course, there are still some, like ibuprofen and acetaminophen, and so forth. But the narrower the classification, the more substitutes, the more elastic the demand. Another example, the demand for food, a broad classification, is less elastic than the demand for lettuce, a particular type of food, a narrow classification. Therefore, the demand for lettuce would be more elastic than the demand for food. The nature of the good in the consumer's mind can also affect the elasticity, in particular whether the good is thought of as a necessity or as a luxury. Now, don't take these categories as somehow being out there in the world. They're more about a person's tastes. For example, for some consumers, that coffee in the morning is a necessity. Even if the price of coffee goes up by a lot, those consumers will still continue to consume. About the same amount of coffee. Therefore, those consumers will have an inelastic demand. They'll have an inelastic demand for goods that they consider to be necessities. The same good in someone else's mind might be a luxury, the consumer who occasionally has a cup of coffee. If the price goes up, then they're going to be more willing to say, nah, I'm going to switch to tea. I'm going to switch to something else. Depending upon how consumers regard the good, therefore, as a necessity, more inelastic demand. As a luxury, more elastic demand. The final determinant is the size of the purchase relative to a consumer's budget. If the purchase is small relative to the budget, then consumers may not even notice when the price goes up. And if they don't notice, they're not going to respond with a big change in the quantity demanded. On the other hand, if we have a product which is a large part of the budget, consumers will notice. Consumers notice when the price of automobiles goes up. That's a big purchase. They're going to shop around a lot. They're going to try and get a big bargain when the purchase is a large fraction of their budget. On the other hand, when the price of toothpicks goes up by a lot, that's not such a big deal. Consumers probably won't even notice whether toothpicks are 50 cents or $1. That's a 50% increase in price, but you probably don't even notice that at the store. So, small item, at least in the short run, more inelastic. Bigger items, a bigger part of the budget, ones that the consumer notices, more elastic, more price sensitive. Let's summarize the determinants of the elasticity of demand. For less elastic goods, that means fewer substitutes. Is the quantity demanded to a change in the price? Then you'll be able to recreate or figure out these factors again. That's it for the elasticity of demand. Next time, we're going to take a closer look at technically how do we get a number? How do we calculate the elasticity of demand? Given some facts and figures on prices and quantity demanded, how do we...
What happened? Oh, I thought I heard a huge and loud sit down. I'm very concerned. I thought I heard a huge and loud sit down. I was concerned. I just want you to take a gander, a look. Hold on, hold. You know what you're looking at.
Come on.
I think the worst part is that the longer I've done this, the more neat it's gotten. Nah, this is one assignment. I'm on video 6.
Hello?
You look very pretty. I almost lost my everything. What? You wish. In more ways than one. Missing. Wrong with her? Nothing wrong with her, Destiny. Little pun there.
In our first lecture on the elasticity of demand...
Wait, how long is this next video? Oh. Nah, they gonna have dang me, bro. This video is 16 minutes long. The one after that is 18 minutes long. The one after that is 13 minutes long. The one after that is 12 minutes long. And the one before all of those, but after the 16-minute one is 4 minutes. So you're telling me
We explain the intuitive meaning of elasticity. It measures the
I gotta give these niggas another hour?
quantity demanded to a change in price. More responsive means more elastic. In this lecture, we're going to show how to create a numeric measure of
Yeah,
elasticity,
indeed.
how to calculate with some data on prices and quantities what the elasticity is over a range of the demand curve. So here's a more precise definition of elasticity. The elasticity of demand is the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. So let's write it like this. We have some notation here. The elasticity of demand is equal to the percentage change in. Delta is the symbol for change in. So this is the percentage change in the quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in the price. That's the elasticity of demand. Let's give an example or two. So, if the price of oil increases by 10%, and over a period of several years, the quantity demanded falls by
I've lost my
5%,
mind.
then the long-run elasticity of demand for oil is what? Well, elasticity is the percentage change in the quantity demanded, that's minus 5%, divided by the percentage change in the price, that's 10.
Oh, we can take off a lot actually. The video notes are actually like 100 points. No bullshit. Like genuinely no bullshit, dude. Hmm. Hmm. Not every night. Not every night. Not every night. Not every night. That would be insane. Not even every other night. It's like every other week. Yeah. They're not nearly as bad as you're making them out. I just don't do them on time. Ever. Well, I actually did all of them on time except this one. So that's really my bad, realistically. But this was let's see. How many points is this worth? This one's worth 100 points flat. They're 10 points each per video.
Percent. So if the elasticity is waves of demand, let's give an example or two. So, if the price of oil increases by 10%, and over a period of several years the quantity demanded falls by 5%, then the long-run elasticity of demand for oil is what? Well, elasticity is the percentage change in the quantity demanded, that's minus 5%, divided by the percentage change in the price, that's 10%. So the elasticity of demand is minus 5% divided by 10%, or negative 0.5. Elasticities of demand are always negative. These terms
The fun stuff.
how fast are you going? 150 miles per hour, right? Okay. So now you're going 150 miles per hour. Suppose you decrease speed by 50%. Now how fast are you going? 75 miles per hour, right? So how is it that you can increase speed by 50% and then decrease by 50% and not be back
My
to
name
where
is
you
Burger
started?
Burgerton. I eat burgers
Well,
for
the
a
answer
living.
is that
Burgerton eats burgers for a living.
intuitively
That's
we've
me. I'm Burger
changed the
Burgerton.
base by which we are calculating the
See,
percentage
you're
change.
not understanding who
And
Burger
we don't
Burgerton
want to
really is,
have
though.
this inconsistency when we calculate
See, that's just a
elasticity. We
misinterpretation.
want
Though. That's
people to get
Burger
the same
Burgerton. You're talking about.
elasticity whether they're
That's
calculating
the
from
Big
the lower
Bird,
base or from the higher base. So because of that, we're
and
going
we
to
don't
use
sleep
the
on Big Bird,
midpoint
bro.
formula. So the elasticity of demand, percentage change in
Cause
quantity
that's Big
divided
Bird,
by the
bro.
percentage change in price. That's the
Burger
change in
Burgerton been there the
quantity
entire time. You know what I'm saying?
divided
Big
by
Bird,
the
bro.
average quantity
See, that's not what I'm
times
saying.
100
See, you're not
to give us the
understanding.
percentage change.
No, I'm not
Well,
saying burger.
divided by the change in price divided by the average
I'm
price.
talking
That's
about
what that
Burger
comes out.
Burgerton, like
Notice that we
Burgerton,
actually
like
have
that's
100 on
Burgerton
top
though.
and 100 on the bottom. Those hundreds we can actually cancel out. Let's
Left and
expand
out,
this
up,
just
down
a
and
little
out.
bit more.
Of
The
course.
change in quantity. What is
I
the
just got
change
like a
in
cheat
quantity?
code off that
Well, let's
sentence.
suppose we have two quantities. Let's call them after and before. It doesn't matter.
Holy damn!
Which one. We want to begin by writing down what we know, our formula.
This man has lost his fucking mind, yeah? So we're gonna get a when to right. Yeah, so yeah, you know. Yeah. Cause you just know, right? Nah, you just know. You just know. Nah, you just know. You just know. You'll be good. You're one of those who know. What's wrong? What's wrong? I'm lame. Aren't you? You. Uh, they put a chip in my brain. I just, I'm not answering this phone call. This man's better off calling the DCFS and filing a false claim on a random rich woman than getting a phone call out of me. Um, cause I literally went downstairs and told the whole house I'm doing homework. So no, I'm not getting up. Hell no. And everybody else is downstairs? Hell no. Have an eyelash in your eye. How'd you let that happen?
divided by the average price of 8. So does this make the elasticity of demand over this range elastic or inelastic? Inelastic,
It's
right?
inelastic.
The elasticity of demand we've just calculated is less than 1, so that makes this one inelastic. There you go.
No way.
Cover one more important point about the elasticity of demand, and that is its relationship to total revenue.
Ooh, did that one have gray eyes? Whoops. What is going on behind me, bro? Yo, yo, yo. Somebody named their horse Dinnerbone. Bone the dinner the bone, dinner bone. And I had 3 hours on my end stream, and my next stream is gonna be something different. I'm gonna actually play a game. Actually do something with my life. Benjamin and Franks, so welcome back. Yo, somebody is selling a fixed trait bird wing Equus for 3,000. Yo, people just Stupid dead virgin horse. No one will ever love you. This person's selling all of their 7 traded regular old unicorns for 10,000. This motherfucker has lost their damn mind. They're selling a cyber for 55K. It's 7 traded alpha. It's draft with green eyes. The COG color palette. The COG color palette. I just said that. You see how you tried to give it the benefit of the doubt because it was a cybrid? Okay. I just told you that it was 7 trading. For 55,000. Izzy. Stop playing with me, bro. I have a normal size eldered one with wings, limber tendons, and twins and nimble hooves, and I wouldn't sell it for that much. I just wouldn't sell it, but that's a different story. 55K for just a 7 trait ugly ass hybrid. Hell on my face. They would hate to see me coming with my 13 trade drafts. Let me think. I blinked. Yeah, I wouldn't even sell my pure white 9 trading Kieran for that much. No bullshit. Maybe 10K, and that's if I'm lucky. Did I also forget to mention that they're also selling all of their ugliest unicorns for 10K apiece? Yeah, they have 15 sales. They don't know what they're doing, so it's okay. They'll figure it out eventually. And when they do, they'll love their life. They will. Right now, they will not love it. So I'm not going for shit.
Divided by the average price, and now just its numerics.
Dude, I'm not selling my soul to give you this nonsense, man. You're tweaking, man. You're tweaking, man. You're tweaking, dude. You're straight tweaking, dog.
You plug in the numbers, and what you get is the elasticity of demand is equal to negative 0.158 approximately. We can always drop the negative sign because these things, elasticities of demands are always negative. So it's equal to 0.158. So does this make the elasticity of demand over this elastic or inelastic?
Stop asking me dumb questions, man.
For the relationship between the elasticity and total revenue. So revenue is price times quantity. Now suppose.
Whoa, buddy. I don't care. Where's my pen? Where's my pen? Where's my stylus? Where's my stylus? You know, every time you say that, I find it, right? Okay, cool. Just making sure because I mean, if you want to be hopeful and that's the way you're interpreting it, I'm not gonna take that away from you. I did not find it actually. Yeah, well. Sucks. Oh well. Oh well. That's funny. I found it. It's in my hand. I guess, bro. I guess, bro. I suppose, bro. If that's what I don't know about all that. I don't know about that. I don't know about all that now, dude. Yeah, the insanity's catching up to me.
Price goes up by a lot, and that quantity demanded goes down just by a little bit. What then is going to be the response of revenue?
But
Well, if the price is going up by a lot and quantity is going down just by a little bit, then revenue is also
oh
going
my
down.
god, I don't care. I
What kind
don't
of demand curve do
care.
we call that? When price goes up by a lot and quantity falls by just a little bit,
I
we
don't
call
care,
that
dog.
an inelastic demand curve. So what this little thought experiment tells us is that when you have an inelastic demand curve, when price goes up, revenue is also going to go up, and of course, vice versa. Let's take a look at this with a graph. So here's our initial demand curve, a very inelastic demand curve. At a price of $10, the quantity demanded is 100 units, so revenue is 1,000. Notice that we can show revenue in the graph by price times quantity. Now, just looking at the graph, look at what happens when the price goes up to 20. Well, the quantity
Yeah,
demanded
what's
goes
going
down
on?
by just a
Oh,
little
okay.
bit, in this case to 90, but
Are you
revenues go
bored?
up to 1,800. So you can just
Tell me
see
as well.
by sketching the little graph what happens to revenues when price goes up when you have an inelastic demand curve. And again, vice versa. Let's take a look about what happens when you have an elastic demand curve. So let's do
90,
the same kind
100.
of little thought experiment. Revenue is price times quantity. Suppose price goes up by a modest amount and quantity goes down by a lot when price goes up when you have. So let's do the same kind of little thought experiment. Revenue is price times quantity. Suppose price goes up by a modest amount and
Suppose
quantity
your
goes
boyfriend is
down by a
exhausted.
lot. Well, if price is going up by a little bit and quantity is going down by a lot, then revenue must also be falling. And
You see.
what type of demand curve is it?
Suppose you
Price goes
wanted
up
to
by a
blame
little
him.
bit, quantity falls by a lot. What type of demand curve is that?
Your
That's
boyfriend.
an elastic demand curve.
What?
So
No.
revenues fall as price rises with an elastic.
Suppose you wanted to blame him.
And again, let's show that. If you're ever confused.
But suppose you did. Yeah, but like suppose you did. Like hypothetical. Hypothetical hype. There's nothing out there for you. Yeah. No, you don't. You do not have anything. Not a thing in the world. It is all my fault. I did not. YouTube.
No, you can't. Look. I'm looking at those.
Or you can have them. Yeah, they're nasty.
Ooh, got a little chunk. Yeah, good one. It smells.
Take them.
It smells a little fun.
You smell a little fun. According to Blocks. Because they told you to go shower. No, they taste like the big ones, and I don't like the big ones. So I don't like them. Oh, wow. You gonna take them with you? Nah, you can keep them. Nah, you took them already, but take them with you.
What did you?
I'm going already, game.
What did you need?
On live, bro. Look at you, bro.
Anybody watching you?
No.
You doing it stupid?
Yeah. I've been eating every day for a couple of weeks. Maybe I get some traction. Put my 9 to 5.
Concepts you not even working a 9 to 5.
The concept of you not even working 9 to 5. Maybe I can quit my 5 to 9.
4 hours.
No, I actually get like 4:30 to 9, like 5. Ever once. She closed the door on me, that bone. Oh man, what the fuck? No. But you gonna find out. No, no, no. You gonna find out,
Losing
dude.
your can't.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh no no. Oh my gosh. Oh no no. I'm thinking it's about like 2:50. Are you sleeping? Cool. Ooh, that's not cool.
Can't quite remember. Said myself, I never remember.
Oh, I've officially played this. I've officially been streaming too long. They told me I
Business
had a burger.
relationship,
I don't
demand
got
for eggs.
burgers.
Has point one. Figure it out. Okay, let's see what happens. Revenue increases, right? If you have an inelastic demand curve and price goes up, revenue goes up as well. Here's an application. Why is the war on drugs so hard to win? Well, drugs are typically going to have a fairly inelastic demand curve. What that means is that when enforcement actions raise the price of drugs, make it more costly to get drugs, raising the price, that means the total revenue for the drug dealers goes up. So check out this graph. Here's the price with no prohibition. Here's our demand curve, our inelastic demand curve. What prohibition does is it raises the cost of supplying the good, but that raises the price, which is what it's supposed to do, and that does reduce the quantity demanded of the drug, but it also has the effect of increasing seller revenues. And seller revenues may be where many of the problems of drug prohibition come from. It's the seller revenues which drive the violence, which drive the guns, which make it look good to be a drug dealer, which encourage people to become drug dealers, and so forth. So there's a real difficulty with prohibition, with prohibiting a good.
Okay.
You've all heard a lot about this year's devastating drought in the Midwest, right? The U.S. Department of Agriculture announced last Friday that the average U.S. But how's it? But you should be able to answer it by now with a few sketches on a piece of paper. And in particular, what I want you to answer is, what type of demand curve for corn would make exactly this type of outcome perfectly understandable? Not a secret or a surprise, but perfect. Perfectly understand.
Click
Hi, and we'll.
or if you're ready to
I still have 4 more videos. At what point do I gouge my eyes out? Are you alive? Still awake? You're still awake? Let's go. At what point do I lose my mind? Quit. Oh. Not advising. Very easy. But I must continue, unfortunately. I have 4 more videos. And I end up getting them all done.
First, suppose in your college town, real estate developers are building thousands of new student-friendly apartments close to campus. If you want to pay the lowest rent possible, should you hope that demand for apartments is elastic or inelastic? As always, try to answer the question by yourself. Check out our video on elasticity of demand, attempt the problem, and then come back and we can work through it together. An easy way to approach this problem is elastic. You want to pay the lowest rent possible. Should you hope that demand for apartments is elastic, student-friendly apartments close to campus? If you want to pay the suppose in your college town, real estate developers are building thousands of new student-friendly apartments close to campus. If you want to pay the lowest rent possible, should you hope that demand for apartments is elastic or inelastic? As always, try to answer the question by yourself. Check out our video on elasticity of demand, attempt the problem, and then come back and we can work through it together. An easy way to approach this problem is to test it out with extreme examples. What happens when demand is very elastic, and what happens when demand is very inelastic? First, let's imagine an apartment is, say, $600, and that demand is very elastic. These are our most price-sensitive consumers. Now, if real estate developers build more houses, the supply curve will shift out. Note that the demand curve does not change, so we move along the demand curve. Clearly, demand will increase. But here's the thing, if demand is very elastic, the price won't change all that much. Housing costs decrease by a bit, but you might not even notice the change. Let's see if there's a better price with very inelastic demand. So start with the initial conditions again. An average apartment is $600. By the way, a trick for distinguishing between inelastic and elastic is that a perfectly inelastic line looks like this. So housing increases, now budges. Perhaps more surprisingly, the price falls by quite a bit. Now, you'd hope for an inelastic demand curve in this case. Let's try one more example to ensure you've got the hang of it. Now let's say the local government announces that thousands of apartments close to campus are uninhabitable and must be torn down next semester. If you want to pay the lowest rent possible in this case, should you hope that demand for apartments is elastic or inelastic? We'll use the same approach we used last time. First, suppose demand is very elastic. If apartments are suddenly condemned, then in the short run, this causes a rapid drop in the supply of available apartments, and the supply curve shifts back. Our new equilibrium price is slightly higher, and the quantity is much lower. Once again, elastic demand means consumers are very responsive to changes in price. But if the demand curve were inelastic, closer to looking like an eye, even a small decrease in quantity would trigger a large increase in price. In comparison to our elastic demand, the price is much higher. So if you're hoping to pay the lowest rent possible, you'd hope for an elastic demand curve in the case of apartment shortages, such that a large drop in supply would result in only a small increase in rental price. Let's sum up. In both examples, elastic demand was
Ah. Oh, when will I be free from my shackles of work? Homework. What the frick, dude? Dude, what the, dude, the flip what? What, dude? Up, sup. I could just S down. S up, S down. You would like for a woman in a gown. Ah, so funny, so funny. Wait, am I stupid? God. Win. Twin. By my 2020. Am I dumb? Why is this man calling? Like, he keeps calling me and I'm not answering that phone, bro. I have homework to do. I'm actually doing it right now. Believe it or not. Believe. Not it or believe. Not it or believe. Not it or believe. I just do not have the facilities for that, big man. So you're gonna have to leave me alone, yeah? Alright. He, you, you, he. How many lights are on in your room? Is it?
Huh?
How many lights are in your
Huh?
How many lights are on in your room?
Wait, that's one of my three, like, five.
Oh, and where are you? Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. 50, 100, 1,000, 600.
I'm Mr. Willis, and you will love economics.
The laws of supply and demand state that a change in price will lead to a change in quantity supplied and quantity demanded. However, sometimes consumers and firms are more responsive to changes in market price than others. I mean, you're still willing to buy gas when prices rise by 50 cents. But a 50-cent increase in the price of a 12-pack of Pepsi is a deal breaker? Ford will significantly boost their production of the F-150 if its market price rises by 5%. But a 5% dip in diamond prices doesn't really change the quantity of
Or Pepsi, or a car, or a home. Price elasticity can be applied to consumers who demand products and to firms who supply them. And elasticity can either be more elastic or inelastic. The price elasticity of demand measures how responsive consumers are to a change in market price. It shows us just how much consumers will alter their consumption when the price of a product changes. When demand is more price elastic, consumers are very responsive to changes in market price level. This means that price plays a huge role in the market, and as such, any change in the price of a good or service, no matter how big or how small, will cause consumers to dramatically alter their consumption. When demand is more price inelastic, consumers are not very responsive to changes in market price level. This means people will continue to buy products no matter the price, and as such, any change in the price of a good or service, no matter how big or how small, will not cause consumers to alter their consumption much at all. The elasticity or inelasticity of demand for certain goods or services usually depends on the products themselves. For example, consumers tend to have a more elastic demand for goods and services that are considered luxuries or wants because they are not needed for survival and they can simply wait to buy them. Since you can do without it for the time being, you have the luxury of waiting for the price to drop before you buy it. By contrast, consumers tend to have a more inelastic demand for goods and services that fulfill a need required for survival. If the product is a necessity and you absolutely cannot do without it, you'll be more willing and able, maybe even forced, to buy it now regardless of market price. In fact, market price won't have much of a bearing on whether you buy the product at all. And so you buy it, even at more expensive prices. That's why we'd be willing to pay higher prices for food, water, or life-saving medicine if we had to. Consumers also tend to have a more elastic demand for goods and services that have many substitutes, and a more inelastic demand for unique products that have few to no substitutes at all. If a product has many substitutes in the market, consumers will be very responsive to any small change in price, as long as the substitute's price remains constant. For example, if the price of Gatorade jumps by 25 cents, consumers will respond by dramatically decreasing their consumption of Gatorade and switching to a cheaper substitute, like Powerade. The products are so similar that they satisfy the same utility, but Powerade is now the cheaper option. By contrast, if a product has few substitutes or is completely unique, it is the only product available to satisfy a consumer's particular need or want. As a result, the consumer has no other options and will have to buy the product, no matter the price in the market. Demand also tends to be more price elastic when the purchase of a good or service requires a larger portion of the buyer's disposable income. When the purchase of a good or service requires a smaller portion of the buyer's disposable income, demand tends to be more price inelastic. If the market price of a home jumps by 5%, that may hike the price that the buyer has to pay to purchase the home by tens of thousands of dollars. Because the price increase is such a significant amount compared to the consumer's available income, the consumer will be very responsive by waiting for the price of the house to drop again before buying it. On the other hand, a 5% increase in the price of a magazine at the checkout stand adds mere cents to the price the consumer would have to pay in order to buy the magazine. That kind of price increase is so small compared to the consumer's available income that they'll shrug it off and pay the extra cents without giving it a second thought. Ever wonder why magazines, candy, gum, and soft drinks are sold by the checkout stand? Well, now you know. The price of these afterthought products requires such a small portion of your income that an incremental price increase over time seems insignificant. The store is just taking advantage of your inelastic demand for these goods to maximize profits. I know, right? And lastly, when buyers have time to contemplate a purchase, and the purchase of a good or service is not time sensitive, demand tends to be more price elastic. If it can wait, so can you. When you have the ability to shop around, think it over, and are in no rush, you can wait the market out and buy the product only after the price falls. That whole "I'll wait until it goes on sale next week" mentality is actually price elastic demand talking. Likewise, when buyers don't have time to contemplate a purchase, and the purchase of a good or service is time sensitive, demand tends to be more price inelastic. If it can't wait and you're in a hurry, you have no choice but to pay the price in the market, no matter how high it is. You simply don't have time to shop around, think about the purchase, or wait for the price to drop. You're going to have to buy it regardless of market price. That "I'll pay anything" panic inside you, and these or how small, will cause firms to dramatically alter their production. When supply is more in the market, and as such, any change in the price of a good or service, no matter how big or how small, will cause firms to dramatically alter their production. When supply is more price inelastic, firms are not very responsive to changes in market price levels. This means companies will manufacture a similar output of products, no matter the price, and buy for certain goods or services inventory, meaning they cannot